Hey guys, today's video is going to be formatted a little differently than usual. I am running behind on time, but this isn't really a review so much as it is just me wanting to talk about some of my older stuff. And I'm not just talking about them because I've had them for a long time. These particular DACs have stood the test of time, and I actually do still use these occasionally. Now, there is one particular DAC that does hold kind of a special place in my heart, but I'm going to save that one for the end. So this is a DAC that I bring up all the time because of the DACs I've owned or reviewed, this one is kind of unique in that it doesn't use your typical Delta Sigma DAC chip, but instead uses an R2R structure. Of course, I'm talking about the Hib FC6. And what that R2R structure does is basically, from what I understand, it takes the incoming audio signal and it runs it through a resistor ladder network. So basically, again, from what I understand, that signal does not go through as many conversions as it would with your typical Delta Sigma structure. And again, I'm no engineer, but I do know that because of the way that signal is processed, the end result is a pretty unique sounding presentation, and you'll usually hear it described as maybe sounding more warm or more analog-y, which I would kind of agree with those descriptors, because when you compare this side by side with almost any other Delta Sigma DAC, it's noticeably different, similar to the differences you might hear between a Delta Sigma DAC amp and a tube amp, for example. It doesn't necessarily sound tubey. However, I could use a lot of the same kinds of terms to describe tube sound or R2R sound. So again, I would definitely describe it as sounding more analog and warmer sounding. And I don't really like using the terms organic or musical, but you could say that about its presentation. Point is though, its sound quality is exceptional and it's quite unique as well. And it's been enjoyable enough for me not to want to let go of it, which is why I still have the Hib FC6. And again, I still use it, even though I've probably owned 30 plus DACs since I purchased this one more than 2 years ago. And I don't know, honestly, I don't see this ever going anywhere. I'm probably going to hold on to this one for a long, long time. And then next I have the Dawn and the Dawn Pro by Moondrop. And I believe the Dawn was released in 2022 and the Dawn Pro in 2023, I think. And both of these were my top value picks at one point because at the time I felt for their asking price, they brought a lot to the table in terms of just pure sound performance. Plus they are really small and just really convenient. But the main reason I've held on to these is because of their sound performance. In my opinion, either of these could go toe to toe with almost any other DAC under or around $100 that I've reviewed in the last couple of years, maybe with the only exception being the XI1. But in terms of pure sound performance, the Dawn and Dawn Pro can still compete with the FiiO K15, Blonde V1, Dunu DTC800, the SMSL D10, the Roselsa RS9039, Fozzy DS2, you name it. And for those reasons, these have pretty much kept a spot on my shelf for quite some time now and will probably stay for a long time to come. And then I have the UA3 and UA5. And I probably do need to pick this up a little, so I'm not going to spend too much time on these, but I know I've had the UA5 for a good 3 years or so, and I think I've had the UA3 for about the same length of time. And when the UA5 came out, the only other DAC that I felt could compete with it at the time was the Moon River 2. So the UA5, along with the Moon River 2, were my two top best performing DACs at the time. And I held on to this one, but I did not hold on to the Moon River 2. And again, I loved the Moon River 2, but it was just a little easier for me to let go of for one reason or another, which I guess that does kind of say a lot. It was a lot harder for me to let go of this one. And then the UA3 was one of my favorites around the $100 price point, and also at some point held a top spot in my rankings. But I have one last dongle that I want to share with you. And this is the Low-2-Pos one. This one, again, this one holds a very special place in my DAC obsessed heart. And what's interesting is of the many portable USB DACs that I've owned over the years, I have never once reviewed this. But even more interesting is that for a very long period of time, probably, I don't know, over a 2-year period, I used this DAC more than any other portable DAC to listen to basically all of my high-end budget IEMs and everything in between. Because at the time, I did not know of any other portable DAC, at least again, of the ones that I had heard or reviewed, that could give me not just a very linear and very transparent presentation, but also a very technical presentation as well. And I knew that I could pair this with some of my most technical IEMs and that it would allow them to give me incredible levels of detail, a very wide soundstage, excellent imaging, and again, I knew it was transparent enough to allow me to enjoy pretty much everything my higher end IEMs had to offer. But of course, I guess the real question is now, do I feel like it's still relevant even in today's market? Well, obviously its relevance to me has more to do with sentimental reasons, which is why I've held on to it for so long. But if I'm being honest, with dongles like the M15i, the M18i, DC Elite, while I do still really get a lot of listening enjoyment out of the Low-2-POS one, and I do think it is a very high performing DAC, I'm not sure that I can say it could stand necessarily toe-to-toe with some of those releases. That said, this is still probably one of my all-time favorite dongles because this thing has really stood the test of time and has been just a super solid performer. And I don't think this thing has ever skipped a beat. Ever. But anyways, I hope you guys have enjoyed this. I know I have. Thank you so much for taking the time to watch. If you like our content, please take a second and hit that subscribe button. And if you'd like to go a step further, you can also support us through our Patreon. I'll be sure to leave a link in the description. Please like this video, please share this video, please comment on this video because I would love to hear about some of your favorite dongles as well. I hope you have an awesome day.